Welcome, dear friends, to a gentle journey through 150 fascinating facts about Thor, the mighty Norse god of thunder who has stood as a symbol of strength, bravery, and the forces of nature for centuries. From the moment Thor first appeared in ancient myths, wielding his mighty hammer Mjolnir and commanding the skies with his storms, he captured the imagination of people across generations. Tonight, we will drift through the tales of his birth, his adventures, his complex relationships with gods and mortals alike, and the quiet yet powerful legacy he leaves in the worlds of both myth and modern culture. Each fact we explore will gently carry you further into the rich tapestry of Thor's mythology, shedding light on his many facets, from his connection to nature to his pivotal role in the cosmic battles that shaped the Norse universe. As we begin, I invite you to take a deep breath, settling into your space, allowing any tension to soften. Feel the warmth of the night around you, your body growing lighter with each breath. Let the gentle rhythm of the words lead you deeper into a state of calm, preparing you for rest. And if you enjoy drifting through stories like this, you're welcome to subscribe and softly tell me where you're listening from tonight. Now, with a peaceful mind and heart, let's begin our journey through the world of Thor. Fact 1. Thor is one of the most important figures in Norse mythology. Known as the god of thunder, he is often depicted as a powerful, fearless warrior. Thor's presence in the myths of old represents the raw, untamed power of nature, thunder, lightning, and storms. His strength was said to be unparalleled, and his personality, as fierce as the storms he controlled, was tempered by a deep sense of duty. Thor was both protector and destroyer, his very name invoking awe and reverence throughout the lands of the gods and mortals alike. Fact 2. Thor is the son of Odin, the all-father of the gods, and Jord, the personification of earth. This divine parentage made him both a mighty warrior and a guardian of the natural world. While Odin, his father, governed wisdom and war, Thor's domain was far more elemental, rooted in nature's most powerful forces. With Odin's strength and Jord's deep connection to the earth, Thor inherited an incredible bond with both the heavens and the land below, reflecting the balance of power between the natural world and the divine. Fact 3. The hammer, Mjolnir, is perhaps the most iconic symbol of Thor. Forged by the dwarven brothers Sindri and Brokkr, it is said to be capable of leveling mountains and creating thunderstorms. Thor's hammer represents his ability to shape the world around him, bringing both destruction and protection. The hammer's name, Mjolnir, is believed to mean that which smashes, or the grinder, a fitting description of its purpose. When Thor wielded Mjolnir, it not only invoked fear in his enemies, but also ensured the protection of the gods and mankind alike. Fact 4. Thor's great strength was said to be unmatched by any other god. In many tales, his power is tested by giants and gods alike, but he always prevails through sheer force and determination. However, his strength was not only physical, it also represented a deeper, more spiritual power. Thor's ability to face immense challenges, from his battles against giants to his role in the defense of Asgard, reflected the resilience of the human spirit, unyielding even in the face of overwhelming odds. Fact 5. One of Thor's most significant companions was his magical belt of strength, the Magngjord. This belt doubled Thor's power, allowing him to take on even the most formidable opponents. The belt, paired with his hammer, made Thor nearly invincible in battle. Yet this connection between Thor and his belt also symbolized the bond between the gods and the tools they wielded, each artifact a reflection of the god's true nature. The Megingjord was not just a physical enhancement, but also a representation of Thor's role as a protector and enforcer of cosmic order. Fact 6. Thor's chariot, drawn by two goats named Tangrisnir and Tangenjuster, was an essential part of his daily travels. These goats were said to be as strong as Thor himself, and when Thor rode through the skies, the sound of thunder followed. In Norse mythology, animals often had great significance, and Thor's goats were more than mere beasts of burden. They were magical creatures, representing both his strength and the vital connection between the gods and the natural world. In some versions of the myth, Thor would even eat his goats, only to have them resurrected the next day. Fact 7. Thor's primary role was as a protector of both gods and humans. He was tasked with guarding Asgard, the realm of the gods, against the giants who were constantly attempting to invade. His hammer, Mjolnir, was the weapon he used to defend against these destructive forces. In addition to his duties as a warrior, Thor was also a symbol of stability. His actions in battle, his devotion to the gods, and his unwavering commitment to protecting the world from chaos made him a central figure in the pantheon of Norse gods. Fact 8. Thor's relationship with his half-brother Loki was complex. While Thor represented order and strength, Loki embodied chaos and mischief. The two gods were often found together in various tales, with Loki's cunning and trickery often leading them into trouble. Despite their differences, Thor and Loki shared a bond that was undeniable, with Loki sometimes helping Thor in his quests. Their interactions showcased the balance between order and chaos, illustrating the delicate dance between creation and destruction that defined the ancient world. Fact 9. The Norse believed that Thor's thunder and lightning were manifestations of his power. Whenever a storm rolled in, it was said that Thor was either riding across the sky in his chariot or striking his enemies with Mjolnir. Thunderstorms, in particular, were thought to be a sign of his anger or protection. The sound of thunder was said to be the sound of his hammer crashing down on his enemies. This connection between Thor and the weather was one of the most enduring aspects of his mythology. Fact 10. Thor was a major figure in the Viking Age. Vikings believed that Thor was a protector, not only of the gods, but also of mankind, and they invoked his name in many rituals and blessings. Before heading into battle, Vikings would often pray to Thor for strength and victory. He was a symbol of bravery and courage, and his presence was felt in both the everyday lives of the Vikings and in their most sacred rituals. To them, Thor was not just a god of myth, but a real, powerful force that influenced their lives. Fact 11. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was not only a weapon of destruction, but also a tool of blessing. It was used in ceremonies to bless marriages, births, and other significant life events. In Norse mythology, Mjolnir was seen as a divine instrument capable of bringing good fortune and protection to those it touched. This dual role as both a symbol of war and a tool of peace highlights Thor's unique place in the Norse pantheon, one who could bring both chaos and order, destruction and renewal, depending on the needs of the world around him. Fact 12. Thor was also known for his deep connection to the earth, which was reflected in his relationship with the sky. As the god of thunder, He commanded the storms that shaped the land, nurturing crops and guiding sailors on their journeys. This intimate connection with nature made Thor a protector of life and a figure of great reverence. In Norse culture, the earth and sky were seen as intertwined, with Thor acting as the intermediary between the two realms, ensuring the balance between creation and destruction. Fact 13. The storm god Thor was often depicted as a figure of strength and might, but he was also known for his boisterous and sometimes comical nature. In various myths, Thor's actions reflect his larger than life personality, often resulting in situations filled with both heroism and humor. These lighter moments in Thor's stories highlight his relatability. Despite his incredible powers, he was portrayed as a god who sometimes struggled, made mistakes, and acted impulsively, making him more human in the eyes of the ancient Norse. Fact 14. Thor's ability to influence the weather was not limited to thunderstorms. He was also associated with the calming rains that allowed crops to grow. In agricultural societies like the Vikings, rain was a life giving force, and Thor's control over this natural phenomenon symbolized his role as a god who could provide abundance or bring famine depending on his mood. His connection to the weather thus portrayed him as a figure whose actions shaped the very survival of humanity, linking him to both prosperity and hardship. Fact 15. The Vikings' reverence for Thor extended beyond mythology and into daily life. Thor was believed to provide protection against evil forces, and his name was invoked during moments of great need. Many Vikings wore amulets shaped like Mjolnir, hoping to carry Thor's strength and protection with them wherever they went. These amulets were considered to be powerful charms, offering both physical and spiritual defense against enemies, misfortune, and the unknown. The act of wearing Thor's hammer symbolized a bond between the people and the divine, a reminder of Thor's watchful eye. Fact 16. Thor's wife, Sif, was known for her golden hair, which was said to represent the golden fields of grain that were harvested every year. In some myths, Loki cut off Sif's hair as a prank, and Thor was furious, demanding that Loki replace it. To make amends, Loki had the dwarves craft a new set of hair for Sif, which was even more beautiful and magical than before. This story illustrates Thor's protective nature toward his loved ones, as well as his role in maintaining the balance between order and chaos in his personal life. Fact 17. Thor's chariot, drawn by his two goats, Tangrisnir and Tangenjoster, not only served as a means of transportation, but also played a symbolic role in his mythology. These goats were seen as embodiments of Thor's power over the earth's creatures, with their strength matching his own. In some myths, Thor would sacrifice and eat these goats, only for them to be resurrected the next day, symbolizing the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. This act was a reminder of Thor's ability to control the forces of life itself, even in the most primal forms. Fact 18. Thor's adventures often took him to other realms, such as Jotunheim, the land of the giants, and Midgard, the realm of humans. His battles against the giants, who symbolized chaos and destruction, were legendary. In these tales, Thor often fought to protect the delicate balance between the gods and mortals. These mythological journeys reflected his role as the protector of the cosmos, and his willingness to journey into dangerous lands highlighted his commitment to maintaining the harmony of the worlds, even if it meant facing great personal danger. Fact 19. In Norse mythology, Thor was one of the primary figures associated with the protection of mankind during Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world. It was said that Thor would face the giant serpent Jormungandr in a final battle, during which he would triumph, but at the cost of his life. This prophecy depicted Thor's selflessness and dedication to the greater good, as he would willingly sacrifice himself to prevent the chaos of Ragnarok from consuming the world. His death in this myth solidified his legacy as both a hero and a martyr. Fact 20. Thor's connection to Midgard, Earth, was particularly strong, as he was not only a god of thunder, but also a defender of humanity. In many myths, Thor was depicted as traveling to Midgard to protect its inhabitants from the threat of giants. His role as a protector of humans made him one of the most beloved gods among the Norse people. His presence in Midgard was a reminder of the divine forces watching over humanity, ensuring that the balance between the realms was maintained and that the world was shielded from the chaos that lay beyond. Fact 21. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of protection for both gods and mortals. In one myth, it was used to bless marriages, ensuring harmony and fertility. The hammer's association with fertility, life, and growth reinforced Thor's dual nature. He was not only a force of destruction, but also a source of life-giving energy. In this way, Thor's role extended beyond war, reaching into the very fabric of creation, where he safeguarded the future of both the divine and human worlds from forces that sought to tear them apart. Fact 22. Despite his great strength, Thor was not immune to moments of vulnerability. In one tale, Thor was tricked by Loki into dressing as a bride to retrieve his stolen hammer. The trickery showed that even Thor, the mightiest of gods, was not beyond the influence of mischief. This story portrays the balance between strength and humility, illustrating that the gods, like mortals, could be vulnerable to the whims of fate and their own desires. Thor's ability to laugh at himself added to his charm, showing that even the strongest could embrace moments of foolishness. Fact 23. Thor's ability to control the weather was central to his role as a god of thunder. However, his storms were not always destructive. They could also bring much-needed rain to the land. This dual nature of Thor's power mirrored the complexities of nature itself. While he could summon lightning to strike down foes, he also nurtured life through his rains, ensuring that crops grew and rivers flowed. The rainstorms he caused were symbolic of his capacity to both destroy and create, reflecting the cyclical rhythm of life, death, and renewal that governs the natural world. Fact 24. Thor's great strength and power often led him into fierce battles with giants, who represented chaos and destruction in Norse mythology. However, Thor's strength was not just about physical prowess. It was also about his ability to confront chaos and restore order. His battles with the giants were symbolic of the eternal struggle between order and disorder, good and evil, creation and destruction. Thor's role as a protector of the cosmos was rooted in his willingness to face the most dangerous and chaotic forces, ensuring the stability of both the divine and human realms. Fact 25. In many myths, Thor is portrayed as a god with an insatiable appetite, particularly for food and drink. In one story, Thor consumes vast amounts of food to regain his strength after a long journey. This connection between Thor and nourishment symbolizes his deep connection to the earth and its resources. Just as the earth sustains life, Thor's power and strength were replenished through the consumption of the bounty it offered. This story adds another layer to Thor's character. He was not only a god of war, but also one who drew strength from the world he protected. Fact 26. Thor's connection to the sea is often explored in myths where he faces the Midgard serpent, or Mungandr, who dwells in the ocean. The serpent, representing chaos, is locked in a constant struggle with Thor, who embodies order. This eternal battle symbolizes the balance between forces of nature, the calm and the storm, the ordered and the chaotic. Thor's battles with Jormungandr remind us of the constant struggle to maintain harmony in the world, where even the gods must contend with creatures of immense power in their efforts to preserve balance and prevent destruction. Fact 27. In Norse myths, Thor's home was the Grand Hall of Bilskirnir, located in the land of the gods, Asgard. Bilskirnir was said to be the largest hall in all of Asgard, built by Thor himself. The hall's great size and strength mirrored Thor's own character, immense, unyielding, and resilient. Bilskirnir symbolized Thor's role as a protector, a place where he could rest and plan for the protection of both the gods and humanity. The grandeur of his home also served as a reflection of the vastness of his influence across both the realms of the gods and the human world. Fact 28. Thor's thunderous presence was not only felt in battle, but also in his role as a spiritual leader. In some myths, Thor was said to have played a part in guiding souls to the afterlife. His hammer, Mjolnir, was used to bless the dead, ensuring that they were welcomed into the afterlife with peace and protection. Thor's ability to influence both life and death highlights his importance as a divine figure who governed not just the living, but also the souls of those who had passed. His power extended beyond the physical realm into the spiritual. Fact 29. One of the most famous myths involving Thor is his journey to the land of the giants, where he sought to retrieve his stolen hammer. During this journey, Thor encountered numerous challenges, including a series of trials that tested his strength and cunning. This journey demonstrated not only Thor's physical might, but also his determination and resilience. His willingness to face danger and overcome obstacles showed that even the strongest gods must struggle and endure trials in their quest to maintain the balance of the worlds, making his victories all the more meaningful. Fact 30. Thor's character was multifaceted, balancing traits of strength and protection with those of humility and kindness. In many stories, Thor was depicted as a god who was approachable and willing to lend a hand to those in need. His interactions with humans were often characterized by a sense of fairness and justice. Despite his immense power, Thor was not an aloof figure, but one who cared deeply for the well-being of others. This humanizing aspect of Thor's character made him a beloved figure, not just in the realms of the gods, but also among the people he protected. Fact 31. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was not just a weapon of war, but also a symbol of stability and protection for the world. Its very shape was said to represent the cosmos, with its broad head symbolizing the earth and its handle representing the axis of the world. The hammer was believed to keep the realms from falling into chaos, serving as a divine anchor. Whenever Thor wielded Mjolnir, it restored order to the universe, reaffirming his role as a guardian of both gods and mortals, preserving the delicate balance between creation and destruction. Fact 32. Thor's fierce and unrelenting nature made him a natural enemy of the giants, who represented chaos and destruction in Norse mythology. Yet Thor's conflict with the giants was also symbolic. The giants were embodiments of primal forces, disorder, entropy, and the destruction of the known world. Thor's battles with them illustrated his role in defending order and structure, not only in the physical world, but also within the divine order. His wars against these giants ensured that the worlds remained intact, and his strength embodied the constant battle between stability and the forces that sought to undo it. Fact 33. Thor's connection to the earth was not limited to his strength. It also extended to his understanding of nature's rhythms. He was particularly revered by farmers who prayed to him for rain to nourish their crops. In this way, Thor was seen as a god who governed the cycles of growth and harvest. His role as a fertility god was as crucial as his role as a warrior. Just as he could summon storms to strike down his enemies, he could also bring life giving rains, reflecting his dual nature as both protector and provider. Fact 34. Thor's iconic hammer, Mjolnir, was forged by the dwarven brothers Sindri and Brokkr, but its creation came with a catch. Loki, ever the trickster, had wagered his head that the brothers could not forge a weapon as powerful as Thor's hammer. The brothers succeeded, but Loki, unwilling to part with his head, cleverly wriggled out of the deal. This myth not only highlights Thor's connection to the dwarves, master craftsmen of the world, but also demonstrates Loki's role in the gods' lives, always meddling, always testing their fates in unexpected ways. Fact 35. Thor's travels often took him across the realms, including Jotunheim, the land of the giants. One such journey saw him enter the halls of the giant king, Utgarda Loki. There, Thor was subjected to a series of challenges, each designed to test his strength, wits, and determination. In the end, these trials revealed that Thor's strength alone was not always enough to overcome the challenges of the cosmos. Instead, he had to rely on his cunning, humility, and wisdom, learning that even gods must sometimes face their limitations to truly grow. Fact 36. Thor's devotion to his family, especially his father Odin, was a central part of his identity. Odin, the All-Father, was often seen as the architect of the god's destiny, while Thor was the hammer of that destiny. This father-son relationship was symbolic of the balance between wisdom and strength, where Odin's knowledge and Thor's power worked in tandem to protect the world. While Odin governed the realms of the mind and spirit, Thor embodied the physical force needed to defend those realms, forming a powerful partnership that ensured the survival of both the gods and mankind. Fact 37. Thor's connection to the heavens was represented by his control over the thunder and lightning. It was believed that when Thor struck his hammer, it caused the sky to tremble with thunder, and lightning flashed from the heavens. This display of power was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, marking Thor as a god whose presence could not be ignored. In this way, his connection to the sky symbolized the divine authority he held, his ability to both create and destroy, shaping the very weather that affected the lives of gods and mortals alike. Fact 38. Thor's role in Norse mythology also involved protecting the boundaries of the cosmos. The Bifrost, a burning rainbow bridge, connected Asgard to Midgard, the world of humans. Thor was the god who guarded this bridge, ensuring that only those worthy could pass between the worlds. The Bifrost symbolized the fragile connection between the realms, and Thor's watch over it reinforced his responsibility as a guardian of all worlds. His vigilance in protecting this sacred bridge was a reminder that even the gods must work tirelessly to keep the forces of chaos at bay. Fact 39: Thor's battles were not always about physical confrontation. Some of his most significant challenges were intellectual or emotional in nature. In one famous myth, Thor sought to retrieve his stolen hammer by entering a giant's hall disguised as a bride. The story showcases Thor's adaptability, his willingness to humble himself, and his capacity for wit, even when faced with great personal embarrassment. This myth reminds us that strength does not always lie in raw power. Sometimes, wisdom and humility can be just as important in overcoming obstacles. Fact 40: Thor's legacy endured long after the ancient Norse myths began to fade. Even in modern times, Thor is remembered and celebrated, particularly through his portrayal in popular culture. Whether as a heroic figure in comic books or as a symbol of strength and resilience, Thor's influence continues to captivate the imaginations of people around the world. His story, one of bravery, loyalty, and the eternal struggle between order and chaos, resonates even today, reminding us of the timeless nature of myths and the enduring power of the gods who shaped them. Fact 41: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was one of the few objects in Norse mythology that could not be easily wielded by just anyone. Its immense weight and divine craftsmanship meant that only those truly worthy, like Thor, could lift it. This feature of Mjolnir symbolizes the exclusivity of divine power and the responsibility that comes with such strength. The hammer's weight also reflected Thor's role as a protector, tasked with carrying the burden of defending the realms. It was a symbol not only of strength, but also of the sacrifice required to wield that strength for the greater good. Fact 42: In some versions of the myths, Thor was depicted as a god who was quick to anger, yet also capable of deep loyalty and kindness. This duality in his nature made him a complex figure in Norse mythology. While his strength and fierceness were often necessary to protect the realms, his moments of compassion revealed a god who cared deeply for those he protected. Thor's temper was something that could erupt unexpectedly, but his loyalty to his family and to Midgard showed that beneath his stormy exterior, he was steadfast and reliable when it mattered most. Fact 43: Thor's relationship with the sea was also significant in Norse mythology. Though primarily associated with thunder and lightning, Thor was also linked to the waters that surrounded Midgard. In one myth, Thor embarks on a fishing trip with the giant Hymir, seeking the great serpent Jormungandr. This journey symbolizes Thor's dominion over both land and sea, reinforcing his role as a god whose influence spanned across all realms. Thor's connection to the sea reminds us of the vastness of his power, extending beyond the skies to the very depths of the oceans. Fact 44: One of Thor's most enduring qualities was his love for adventure. Unlike some gods who were content with their lofty positions in Asgard, Thor was always eager to explore and embark on quests. These journeys took him to distant realms and into the heart of dangerous situations, whether battling giants, retrieving stolen treasures, or defending the realms from destruction. Thor's wanderlust reflects the human desire for exploration and discovery, and his tales of daring adventures were a reminder that even the gods had to face the unknown and embrace the challenges that awaited them. Fact 45: Thor's bravery was not just a characteristic, it was a defining part of his being. He was the first to rush into battle when Asgard was threatened, never hesitating to face overwhelming odds in defense of his home and loved ones. His courage was symbolic of the warrior spirit, the unyielding will to protect the things that mattered most. Yet this bravery was not reckless. Thor understood the stakes of his actions, and his decisions to face danger head on were driven by a deep sense of duty, making him a model of selfless courage for the ages. Fact 46. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was not only a weapon of war, but also a tool used for other divine purposes. In addition to protecting the gods in Midgard, Mjolnir was also used to bless marriages and sanctify sacred rituals. This dual function, both destructive and protective, demonstrates Thor's role as a multifaceted deity who embodied the balance between life and death, creation and destruction. Just as the hammer could obliterate giants and monsters, it could also bring harmony and peace, reflecting Thor's influence over the cycles of existence. Fact 47. Thor was often depicted as a god who was larger than life, both in physical stature and in his personality. His boisterous laughter and love for feasting added a sense of warmth and humanity to his character, making him more relatable to the Norse people. In a world filled with gods who were distant and enigmatic, Thor stood out as a figure who embraced the pleasures of life, from drinking ale to sharing stories with his companions. This approachable side of Thor made him beloved among the people, who saw him not just as a protector, but as a friend. Fact 48. Thor's role as a protector extended beyond just fighting giants. He also served as a guardian of the natural world. In several myths, Thor is depicted as fighting to protect the sacred forests, rivers, and mountains from destructive forces. This aspect of his character connects him to the earth and the elements, highlighting his deep connection to the world he sought to protect. Thor's guardianship of nature made him a symbol of environmental harmony, reflecting the importance of balance in the world and the god's responsibility to ensure that balance was maintained. Fact 49. The Vikings, who held Thor in great esteem, believed that he was the most important god for their survival and success in battle. They would often call upon him for strength and protection before going into combat. Thor's presence was thought to inspire bravery and confidence in warriors, reminding them that they had the might of a thunder god behind them. In this way, Thor was not only a figure of myth, but also a source of inspiration in the daily lives of those who revered him, particularly the Viking warriors who sought his blessing. Fact 50. In many myths, Thor's actions are driven by his desire to protect his family, especially his father, Odin. Thor's love for his family was a recurring theme in his stories, and his dedication to ensuring their safety was often what motivated him to act. His fierce devotion to Odin and his desire to keep the realms safe from chaos are what ultimately defined his character. Thor's family-oriented nature made him relatable, as it mirrored the protective instincts that many humans feel toward their loved ones, reinforcing his role as a god who was both mighty and loving. Fact 51. Thor's connection to lightning and storms was deeply symbolic in Norse mythology. As the god of thunder, Thor could summon storms with the swing of his mighty hammer, Mjolnir. The sound of thunder was believed to be the roar of Thor himself as he rode across the sky in his chariot. This connection between Thor and the natural world symbolized his role as both a creator and destroyer. Just as storms could bring devastation, they also brought life giving rain, reflecting the dual nature of Thor's power to both harm and nurture in equal measure. Fact 52: Thor's bravery was not only seen in battle, but also in his willingness to face challenges that tested his wit and cunning. In one myth, Thor and Loki were invited to the land of giants, where Thor faced a series of trials. These trials, though they tested his strength, also required him to use his intelligence and resolve. This myth shows that while Thor was often seen as a physical powerhouse, he was also a god who could adapt, showing that true strength is a balance between muscle, mind, and heart. Fact 53: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was said to be so powerful that it could not be destroyed by any mortal force. This divine weapon was considered a symbol of eternal protection. The hammer's strength and durability mirrored Thor's own nature, unbreakable and unwavering. Just as Mjolnir could never be shattered, Thor's resolve in the face of danger was absolute. This unwavering strength allowed him to stand firm against even the most overwhelming foes, ensuring that the worlds remained safe from the forces of chaos that constantly threatened to unravel the fabric of existence. Fact 54: Thor's deep connection to nature was often reflected in his actions. He was believed to be the protector of the crops and the harvest, and in many myths, he is called upon to bring rain to nourish the earth. Thor's ability to command the weather was symbolic of the deep link between the gods and the earth. His role in controlling the elements showed that he was not just a god of war, but also a caretaker of life, ensuring that the earth could continue to sustain all living creatures through the cycles of nature. Fact 55: Thor's adventures often took him beyond the mortal realm into the lands of gods and giants. His journey to the land of the giants, Jotunheim, was one of the most famous, where he faced off against creatures that embodied chaos and destruction. These myths illustrate Thor's role as a cosmic warrior, constantly engaged in the battle to maintain the order of the worlds. His travels between realms demonstrated his importance as a figure who transcended boundaries, embodying the eternal struggle between the forces of creation and the threat of destruction. Fact 56: Thor's role as a defender of the gods and humans was reflected in his numerous encounters with the giants. Often, the giants symbolized forces of chaos, the antithesis of the gods' ordered existence. Thor's battles with these creatures were vital in maintaining balance, as each victory over a giant was a victory for order. His physical strength and his hammer, Mjolnir, were the tools he used to protect both the gods of Asgard and the humans of Midgard. These stories of battle were reminders of Thor's relentless commitment to preserving the stability of the universe. Fact 57: Thor's great strength was matched only by his insatiable appetite. In several myths, he is depicted as eating large quantities of food to replenish his strength after exerting himself in battle. This appetite not only reflects his power, but also his need for sustenance to continue his role as protector. Thor's eating habits symbolize the idea that strength, both physical and spiritual, comes from nourishment, be it food, knowledge, or companionship. This grounding aspect of Thor's character made him more relatable to the ancient Norse, who believed that even gods had basic needs to maintain their power. Fact 58: Thor's presence was always a sign of imminent danger or protection. When thunder rolled across the skies, it was believed to be Thor on his chariot, driving the storm. The flashes of lightning were said to be the strikes of his hammer, and the rumbling thunder was his voice. Thor's arrival in these stories was often a signal of a major event, whether it be the defeat of an enemy or the announcement of a coming storm. His connection to the skies made him a powerful figure whose actions were always felt far and wide, shaping the world below. Fact 59. In one of Thor's more comical myths, he must disguise himself as a bride to retrieve his stolen hammer from the giant Thrym. Thor, dressed in a wedding gown, presents a humorous contrast to his usual image as the mighty god of thunder. This story highlights not only Thor's flexibility, but also his willingness to do whatever it took to restore order, even if it meant enduring embarrassment. This lighter moment in Thor's mythos reflects his humanity, showing that even gods must sometimes step outside their comfort zones to achieve their goals. Fact 60. Thor's relationship with Loki, the trickster god, was one of both camaraderie and tension. While Thor was the embodiment of strength and order, Loki represented chaos and mischief. Despite their contrasting personalities, the two gods often worked together, with Loki frequently getting Thor into trouble and at times helping him out of it. This dynamic between the two gods reflected the balance of opposites in the world. Thor's strength and Loki's cunning showed how the forces of order and chaos, though seemingly opposed, were intertwined, each playing a vital role in the world's ongoing narrative. Fact 61. Thor's battles with the giants were not just about physical strength, they were symbolic of his constant struggle to preserve order in the cosmos. In one myth, Thor fights a giant who is capable of shape-shifting, showing that chaos can take many forms. These battles often involved more than mere violence. They tested Thor's ability to maintain control over the forces of destruction that threatened the delicate balance of the worlds. Through each victory, Thor reinforced the idea that even the gods must fight tirelessly to ensure the survival of both the divine and human realms. Fact 62. Thor was also a figure of protection, not just for the gods, but for mankind as well. He was often called upon to shield Midgard, the human world, from the threats of giants and other dangers. In this way, Thor served as a divine guardian, ensuring that humanity had a protector who could stand against the darkness. His role as a defender of the mortal realm was a reflection of the Vikings' belief that the gods were invested in the well-being of humans, watching over them in times of peace and strife alike. Fact 63. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was so powerful that it could strike down entire armies. It was said that no creature could withstand its blows, and its thunderous strikes were capable of causing great destruction. However, Mjolnir's true power was not just in its destructive potential, it was also a symbol of divine justice. Thor's hammer was used to protect, bless, and even revive, highlighting its role in upholding cosmic order. Mjolnir's dual nature, as both a tool of destruction and of renewal, reflects the complexity of Thor's power, which could both create and obliterate. Fact 64. Thor's bond with his goats, the Tangrisnir and Tangjoster, was a unique aspect of his character. These magical goats, who pulled Thor's chariot, were said to be able to travel with great speed and strength, making them essential to Thor's journeys across the realms. In some myths, Thor would eat the goats after a long day of travel, only to resurrect them the following morning. This ability to regenerate the goats reflected the themes of death and rebirth found in Thor's stories, highlighting the cyclical nature of life and the power to restore and begin anew. Fact 65. Thor was not just a figure of strength, he was also one of the most revered gods in Norse mythology due to his sense of duty. He was often depicted as a god who would not hesitate to sacrifice his own well being for the greater good. His role as a defender of the realms required him to make personal sacrifices, and he did so willingly. This selflessness made Thor a beloved figure, one who put the protection of his people above all else, embodying the ideals of loyalty and responsibility that were highly valued by the Norse. Facta 66. In Norse mythology, Thor's role as the god of thunder was not merely a physical attribute. Thunderstorms were believed to be manifestations of his power, and they were often seen as a warning or sign of change. When Thor rumbled across the skies, his presence was felt deeply across all realms. The thunder that accompanied his hammer's strike was seen as both a call to action and a reminder of the forces of nature that could neither be controlled nor ignored. Thor's storms, then, were symbolic of the divine will at work, reshaping the world. Below, Fact 67. Thor's wisdom was often overlooked because of his focus on strength and battle. However, in some myths, Thor's decisions showed that he understood the complexity of the world and its challenges. He was not just a brute force, he also possessed a keen sense of strategy and foresight. In the story of his journey to retrieve his stolen hammer, Thor relied not only on his strength, but on his wits, highlighting the deeper layers of his character. His ability to combine physical might with mental agility made him one of the most formidable gods in the pantheon. Fact 68. Thor's wife, Sif, played an important role in the myths surrounding Thor. While Thor was often the one to take center stage in battle, Sif was known for her beauty and wisdom. She was often depicted with golden hair, which symbolized the abundance of the earth and the fertile crops that Thor's storms helped nourish. Sif's connection to the earth and her nurturing qualities made her a counterpart to Thor's stormy, destructive nature. Their relationship symbolized the balance between the forces of creation and destruction, showing that both were necessary for the world to thrive. Fact 69. Thor's connection to the sea was not only symbolic, but also deeply entwined with his journeys. In the myth of the fishing trip with the giant Hymir, Thor attempts to catch the great serpent Jormungandr. This myth emphasizes Thor's role as a god who could traverse the heavens, land, and seas, confronting threats in all realms. His journey across the waters represented his dominion over the natural world, from the sky to the depths of the ocean, showcasing his power over both terrestrial and aquatic forces, ensuring balance in all realms. Fact 70. Thor's adventures often involved him journeying to strange and dangerous lands, including the land of the giants Jotunheim. These travels were not only physical, but also spiritual, as Thor's journeys symbolized the trials and challenges that every protector must face. In his quests, Thor was forced to confront not just external enemies, but also his own weaknesses and doubts. These myths depicted the god's struggle to maintain balance and order in a chaotic world. Thor's willingness to face these trials was what solidified his place as a hero in the hearts of the Norse people. Fact 71. Thor's connection to Midgard, the world of humans, was profound. He often ventured into this realm, not only to protect it from external threats, but also to interact with its people. The gods' relationship with humanity was important in Norse mythology, and Thor was seen as a bridge between the divine and mortal realms. His visits to Midgard were symbolic of the gods' protection and their active involvement in the world. Thor's presence in the mortal world reassured the people that they were watched over by a divine protector, ensuring their safety and prosperity. Fact 72. Thor was known for his impulsiveness, but this trait was often tempered by his sense of justice. In several myths, Thor acted without thinking, rushing headlong into situations with his hammer raised high. However, his actions were guided by a deeper sense of right and wrong. This impulsive nature made Thor a dynamic and unpredictable figure in Norse mythology, one who could be both reckless and righteous. His willingness to act quickly reflected his deep commitment to protecting the realms, showing that sometimes action was more important than careful thought in the face of danger. Fact 73. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, had the ability to shape the very fabric of reality. Its strikes were capable of creating vast rifts in the cosmos, destroying obstacles and reshaping the world as needed. This power of transformation was symbolic of Thor's role as both a creator and destroyer. Mjolnir could be used to protect, to create life-giving rains, or to obliterate enemies. The hammer's ability to alter the world was a reflection of Thor's influence, reminding the Norse people that the gods had the power to change the world for better or worse, depending on their will. Fact 74. Thor's travels across the realms often brought him into conflict with other gods and beings. One of the most famous myths is his journey to the land of the giants, Jotunheim, where he encounters numerous challenges. These trials tested not just his strength, but his ability to adapt to unfamiliar situations. In one myth, Thor wrestles with the giantess Ellie, who represents old age. This encounter symbolizes the inevitable passage of time and the struggle against the forces that seek to weaken even the strongest gods. It highlights Thor's determination to fight against all odds. Fact 75. Thor's home in Asgard, Bilskirnir, was a vast and impressive hall, said to be the largest in all of Asgard. Its grandeur reflected Thor's importance in the Norse pantheon. Bilskirnir was not just a dwelling, it symbolized Thor's status as a god of immense power and influence. The hall was a place of both rest and preparation for Thor, where he could plan his next adventures and recuperate from his battles. Its enormous size mirrored the vastness of Thor's strength and the weight of the responsibility he carried in protecting the realms. Fact 76. Thor's role in Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world, was one of the most significant aspects of his myth. It was foretold that Thor would face the great serpent Jormungandr in a final battle. Although Thor would defeat the serpent, he would not survive the encounter. His death symbolized the ultimate sacrifice, as he gave his life to prevent the destruction of the world. This tragic end reflected the Norse belief that even the greatest heroes must one day face their fate, and that in death they would be remembered for their deeds. Fact 77. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was not only a symbol of his power, but also a tool that protected the cosmos. When Thor wielded the hammer, it was said to restore balance, keeping the giants and other chaotic forces at bay. The hammer's importance went beyond its ability to destroy. It was a symbol of Thor's responsibility to keep the worlds safe. In many myths, Thor's hammer was used to seal the boundaries between the realms, ensuring that the forces of chaos could not breach the sanctity of the divine worlds or the mortal realm. Fact 78. Thor's relationship with Loki, his often unpredictable companion, was complex. Though the two gods were frequently at odds, their bond was undeniable. Loki, the trickster god, often got Thor into troublesome situations, but Thor's strength and straightforward nature balanced Loki's mischief. Despite their differences, Thor and Loki were often forced to work together. This relationship reflected the balance between order and chaos, with Thor representing stability and Loki representing the ever present potential for disruption. Their dynamic was an essential part of many myths, highlighting the interplay between opposing forces in the universe. Fact 79. Thor was often depicted as a god who could be both heroic and human in his actions. In one myth, Thor engages in a contest of strength with the giant Geirrod. During the contest, Thor is initially tricked by the giant's trickery, but he eventually overcomes the deception. This myth illustrates Thor's resilience and his ability to rise above challenges, even when faced with deceit. It shows that even gods must confront obstacles and that their victories are often the result of both strength and wisdom. Thor's ability to triumph in the face of adversity made him a true hero. Fact 80. Thor's role as the protector of both gods and humans was vital in maintaining the balance of the cosmos. In one myth, Thor takes on the responsibility of defending the god's sacred home, Asgard, from an army of giants. This battle, though often chaotic, was crucial in ensuring the survival of the gods. Thor's unyielding nature, along with his commitment to defending the realms, made him the ultimate guardian. His presence in the mythological world reminded the Norse people that even in times of great conflict, there were those who would always fight to protect the light. Fact 81. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was deeply symbolic of his role as both a protector and a force of nature. Not only did it serve as a weapon of immense power, but it was also associated with the creation of the world. In one myth, Mjolnir was used to bless the first humans, granting them life and protection. The hammer's ability to both destroy and create mirrored Thor's dual role as a guardian of the gods and humanity. It represented the delicate balance between creation and destruction, with Thor standing as a constant protector of this balance. Fact 82. Thor's bond with his father, Odin, was a central part of his mythology. While Odin was the god of wisdom, Thor embodied physical strength and bravery. Despite their differing roles, Thor and Odin shared a deep respect for one another. Thor's devotion to his father was evident in many stories, where he defended Asgard and the other gods at Odin's command. This father-son relationship represented the union of wisdom and strength, two essential qualities that allowed the gods to maintain order in the cosmos. Thor's loyalty to Odin exemplified the importance of familial bonds among the gods. Fact 83. Thor's adventures often took him to Jotunheim, the land of the giants. These mythical creatures were often depicted as embodiments of chaos and destruction. Thor's role as the god of thunder placed him in direct opposition to the giants, with each battle reflecting the eternal struggle between order and disorder. The giants, representing primal forces, constantly sought to disrupt the balance of the worlds, while Thor's strength and determination kept them in check. His journeys to Jotunheim illustrated the complex relationship between the gods and the forces that threatened their existence. Fact 84. One of Thor's most famous myths involves his fishing trip with the giant Hymir. The two went out to sea to catch the great serpent Jormungandr, who represented chaos and the end of the world. During the trip, Thor's strength and resilience were tested as he tried to catch the serpent. This myth not only emphasized Thor's power, but also his willingness to confront the most dangerous of creatures, even if it meant risking his own life. It symbolized the god's duty to face chaos head on and prevent it from consuming the world. Fact 85. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was so closely tied to his identity that it became synonymous with his very nature. It was a symbol of divine protection, as well as the destructive force needed to safeguard the cosmos. In many cultures, the hammer was seen as a divine emblem of strength and justice. In the Viking Age, it was common for people to wear amulets shaped like Mjolnir, hoping to invoke Thor's strength and protection. These amulets served as reminders that Thor's divine power could be called upon for both physical and spiritual defense. Fact 86. Thor's impulsive nature was both a strength and a flaw. His quick temper sometimes led to rash decisions, which often put him and his companions in difficult situations. However, his willingness to act without hesitation also made him an effective protector. In several myths, Thor's impulsiveness led to challenges, but it was his bravery and determination that saw him through. This aspect of Thor's personality showed that even the gods had their flaws, yet it was through facing these flaws that they grew stronger and more capable of fulfilling their divine responsibilities. Fact 87. Thor's ability to summon thunder and lightning was tied to his deep connection to the sky. The sound of thunder was believed to be the roaring of his chariot as he rode across the heavens. Lightning, on the other hand, was the flash of his hammer striking down enemies or clearing the path ahead. Thor's control over the weather reflected his immense power and his role as a mediator between the gods and the forces of nature. His storms were both a warning and a symbol of divine action in the world. Fact 88. Thor's strong connection to the natural world extended to his relationship with the earth itself. He was often called upon to bring rain to nourish crops, making him not only a god of war, but also a god of fertility and life. The Norse believed that Thor's storms could help bring the rains that were necessary for the growth of crops. His ability to control the weather symbolized his dominion over the natural cycles of life and death, reinforcing his role as a protector of the earth and all its inhabitants. Fact 89. Thor's journey to the land of the giants was one of the most important and dramatic tales in Norse mythology. During this journey, Thor was forced to confront his own limitations. In one of the trials, he was challenged by the giantess Ellie, who represented old age. Despite his strength, Thor found himself unable to defeat her, as she symbolized an inevitability that even he could not overcome. This myth reflected the idea that no matter how powerful one might be, there were forces beyond even the gods' control, such as time itself. Fact 90. Thor's role in Ragnarok, the end of the world, was a central theme in Norse mythology. It was foretold that Thor would face Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, in a final battle that would signal the end of the world as the gods knew it. Though Thor would defeat the serpent, he would be fatally poisoned in the process. This tragic end for Thor symbolized the sacrifice necessary to preserve the order of the universe. His death represented the ultimate price for maintaining balance showing that even the most powerful gods must face their destined fate. Fact 91. Thor's relationship with the gods of Asgard was one of both camaraderie and duty. While Odin, his father, ruled with wisdom, Thor's role was often seen as the warrior, ready to defend Asgard from any threat. Thor's strength was essential to maintaining the security of the gods, especially as they faced constant threats from giants and other chaotic beings. His partnership with Odin and the other gods reinforced the idea that while wisdom and knowledge were crucial, so too was the need for raw power and courage in protecting the realms from destruction. Fact 92. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was a unique and powerful tool forged by the dwarven brothers Sindri and Brakr. The hammer's creation was the result of a wager with Loki, and it was imbued with magical properties that made it nearly indestructible. The hammer was also capable of returning to Thor's hand when thrown, a feature that made it a highly effective weapon in battle. The hammer's unique craftsmanship reflected the skill and power of the dwarves, and its relationship with Thor emphasized the importance of magical tools in Norse mythology, objects that could shape the fate of worlds. Fact 93. Thor's journey to retrieve his hammer from the giant Thrym was one of the more humorous and cunning myths in Norse mythology. To trick Thrym into returning the hammer, Thor disguised himself as Freya, the goddess of love, and attended a wedding feast. Despite the absurdity of the situation, Thor's willingness to go to great lengths to retrieve his weapon illustrated his devotion to protecting the gods and the mortal world. This myth also highlighted Thor's ability to adapt, using both his strength and his wit to overcome challenges, even when faced with humiliation. Fact 94. Thor's connection to the rain and fertility made him a god who was as much a provider as a warrior. He was often called upon to bring rain to nourish the crops of Midgard, ensuring that the lands were fertile and able to sustain life. This dual role as both protector and provider made Thor a god who embodied the cycles of nature, symbolizing the delicate balance between destruction and creation. His storms could destroy, but his rains could also bring life, making him a vital figure in both the physical and spiritual survival of the world. Fact 95. Thor's impulsiveness was a defining trait in many of his myths. He was often quick to act, sometimes without considering the consequences. This impulsive nature led him into many adventures and misadventures, but it also made him a god who was always ready to face danger head on. His bravery and willingness to act, even when it seemed reckless, were qualities that made him a beloved hero. Thor's character showed that sometimes even the gods needed to learn from their mistakes, but that their willingness to act was often what made them heroes in the first place. Fact 96. Thor was not only a protector of the gods, but also a defender of humanity. His role in Midgard, the world of humans, was crucial to the survival of mankind. Thor was often depicted as a god who traveled to Earth to protect its people from the threats of the giants and other dark forces. His presence was a constant reassurance that the gods were looking after humanity. The Vikings especially revered Thor, seeing him as a god who could bring them victory in battle and protect them from the chaos that threatened to engulf the world. Fact 97. Thor's sacred goats, Tangrisnir and Tangenjoster, were not just his companions, but also magical beings with their own powers. They were able to travel with incredible speed, carrying Thor's chariot across the sky as he summoned storms. The goats also symbolized Thor's dominion over nature, representing both the power and the fragility of life. In some myths, Thor would sacrifice the goats, eating them to regain his strength, only to resurrect them the next day. This act symbolized the cyclical nature of life and death, a theme that was central to Thor's character and mythology. Fact 98: Thor's battles with the giants were not just physical confrontations, but also symbolic of the eternal struggle between order and chaos. The giants, who represented chaos and destruction, were a constant threat to the gods and the world of humans. Thor's victories over the giants symbolize the triumph of order, civilization, and the divine over the forces that sought to dismantle them. These myths reflected the Norse worldview, where the forces of chaos were ever present, but the gods, especially Thor, were committed to maintaining balance and order in the universe, no matter the cost. Fact 99: Thor's deep connection to the earth was reflected in his ability to manipulate the elements. His power over thunder and lightning was well known, but his connection to the natural world went beyond just the weather. Thor was considered a god of fertility, and his storms brought the rain needed for crops to grow. In many ways, Thor's storms were a manifestation of his role as a force of nature, capable of both destruction and creation. This duality in his powers reflected the natural cycles that governed life on Earth, stormy yet necessary for life's renewal. Fact 100: Thor's mythological journey is not just about battles and physical strength. It is also about his deep connection to the larger cosmic order. Thor was constantly working to maintain the balance of the worlds, ensuring that the forces of chaos never overwhelmed the divine or mortal realms. His struggles were symbolic of the challenges that the Norse people faced in their daily lives. The stories of Thor's adventures remind us that the gods were not distant and untouchable, but were figures that embodied the struggles, sacrifices, and triumphs of life itself. Fact 101: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was more than just a weapon of war. It was a symbol of divine protection and power, often used to bless people and places. In some myths, Thor used Mjolnir to bless marriages, ensuring fertility and harmony in relationships. The hammer's role in these blessings highlighted Thor's dual nature, where he wasn't just a destroyer of giants, but also a nurturer of life. Mjolnir's power to both protect and create life made it one of the most revered objects in Norse mythology, as it carried Thor's essence as both protector and provider. Fact 102: Thor's connection to his family was central to his character. His father, Odin, was the All-Father of the gods, while his mother, Jord, was the personification of the earth. This unique parentage gave Thor a strong connection to both the divine and the natural worlds. While Odin governed wisdom and war, Thor's power lay in his physical strength and his deep bond with nature. His relationship with his family reinforced the balance of power in Norse mythology, where wisdom, strength, and the natural world were all intertwined in the protection of the cosmos. Fact 103: Thor's role in Norse mythology was not only to protect Asgard, but also to keep the boundaries between the realms secure. He was often called upon to defend Midgard, the human world, from the chaos brought by giants. In this way, Thor acted as a guardian of the mortal realm, ensuring that the forces of destruction could not breach the protective walls surrounding humanity. His connection to both the gods and humans made him a unique figure, one who bridged the gap between the divine and the mortal, watching over both worlds with unwavering strength. Fact 104: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, had the ability to return to him after being thrown. This unique property of the hammer made it an incredibly effective weapon. Thor could throw Mjolnir at his enemies, knowing it would come back to him. This symbolized the idea of divine justice. What was sent out to destroy would always return to restore balance. Mjolnir's returning nature also represented the cyclical nature of life in Norse mythology, where every action had a corresponding reaction, and forces of destruction and creation were always in motion, maintaining the balance of the universe. Fact 105: Thor's connection to lightning was not only symbolic of his power, but also represented his role as a divine force of both destruction and creation. Lightning in Norse mythology was believed to be Thor's divine weapon, striking down his enemies with immense power. But lightning also served another purpose. It was the spark of life, necessary for the growth of crops and the health of the earth. Thor's ability to summon lightning reflected his dominion over both the destructive and life giving forces of nature, showing that even in destruction there could be renewal. Fact 106: Thor's chariot, drawn by his two goats, Tangrisnir and Tangjostr, was a key part of his mythology. These magical goats had incredible strength and speed, able to carry Thor across the sky as he summoned storms. The goats represented Thor's connection to the earth, as they were creatures of both land and sky. In some myths, Thor would even sacrifice and eat these goats after a journey, only to have them magically resurrected the next day. This cycle of death and rebirth symbolized Thor's role in the cycles of life and his control over nature's forces. Fact 107: Thor's role in Norse mythology was not just to fight giants, but also to ensure the stability of the cosmos. The giants, representing chaos and destruction, were constantly trying to break the balance between the realms. Thor's battles with these beings symbolized the god's ongoing struggle to protect order and stability in the universe. His victories were essential in keeping the cosmic forces in check. Thor's role as a defender of the realms showed that even the gods were involved in an eternal battle to maintain harmony, ensuring the survival of both the divine and mortal worlds. Fact 108: Thor's adventures were often marked by his encounters with other gods and supernatural beings. One of his most famous companions was Loki, the trickster god. Though Loki and Thor had contrasting personalities, they often worked together to face challenges. Loki's cunning and trickery complemented Thor's strength and straightforwardness, creating a dynamic relationship between the two. While Thor represented order and stability, Loki embodied chaos and mischief. Their interactions reflected the balance between these opposing forces in the world, showing that both were necessary for maintaining the balance of the cosmos. Fact 109: Thor's devotion to his people and his family was a key aspect of his character. He was not only a protector of the gods, but also a defender of humanity. His love for his father, Odin, and his commitment to defending Asgard and Midgard from the forces of chaos highlighted his role as a guardian. Thor's willingness to fight, even at great personal cost, showed his selflessness and his deep sense of duty. His love for his people made him one of the most beloved gods in Norse mythology, embodying the ideals of loyalty and sacrifice. Fact 110: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was not only a weapon, but also a symbol of his divine authority. Its power was so great that it could strike down even the most formidable enemies, including giants and monsters. The hammer's destructive power made Thor one of the most feared gods in the Norse pantheon. However, Mjolnir was also a symbol of Thor's responsibility as a protector. He wielded the hammer not for personal gain, but to maintain the balance of the cosmos and protect both the gods and humans from the forces of chaos that sought to destroy them. Fact 111: Thor's role in Norse mythology was not only one of strength, but also of spiritual significance. As a protector, he was viewed as a guardian of the sacred and a defender of cosmic order. His hammer, Mjolnir, was often used to sanctify and protect places, marking him as a god who bridged the gap between the divine and the earthly. Thor's ability to bless and purify symbols, places, and people showed his importance not just in battle, but in ensuring the spiritual well being of both the gods and the mortal realms he watched over. Fact 112: Thor's chariot, drawn by his two goats, Tangrisnir and Tangjoster, was an essential part of his daily life. These goats were magical creatures, embodying both the earth and the sky. The goat's connection to Thor represented his role as a force of nature, as they could travel across the heavens with great speed. Thor's travels in his chariot symbolized the movement of storms across the sky, and the rumble of thunder was often seen as the sound of his chariot's wheels. The goat's ability to regenerate after being eaten further symbolized Thor's influence over life and death. Fact 113: Thor's battles were not just physical confrontations, they were symbolic of his deeper role in the cosmos. His ongoing struggles against the giants and other chaotic forces reflected the eternal fight between order and disorder. Thor's strength was used not just to defeat enemies, but to preserve the stability of the worlds. His victories ensured that the cosmic order remained intact, while his defeats, like the one at Ragnarok, symbolized the cyclical nature of the universe, where even gods must face their end, allowing for rebirth and renewal in the realms of both gods and men. Fact 114: Thor's connection to the weather was one of the most defining aspects of his mythology. As the god of thunder, he controlled the storms that shaped the land. His thunderous roars were believed to be the sounds of his hammer striking down upon his enemies. However, Thor's storms also brought rain, a necessary element for the fertility of the land. His ability to both destroy and nurture reflected the Norse belief in the interconnectedness of all natural forces. Thor embodied the idea that both creation and destruction are necessary for the cycles of life to continue. Fact 115: Thor's relationship with Loki, though often tense, was an essential part of his mythos. While Thor represented strength, stability, and protection, Loki was the embodiment of mischief and chaos. Despite their differences, the two gods frequently found themselves working together to solve problems. Loki's cunning often provided solutions to the challenges Thor faced, while Thor's strength kept them grounded in moments of danger. Their dynamic reflected the delicate balance between order and chaos, with each force playing an important role in the balance of the cosmos. Their partnership showcased how opposites could complement each other. Fact 116: Thor's role as the protector of Midgard, the human realm, was one of his most important duties. He was often depicted as the divine guardian who watched over humanity, ensuring that the forces of chaos, like the giants, could not invade and destroy the world of men. Thor's presence in Midgard represented the gods' commitment to their mortal creations, showing that they were invested in the protection and well being of humanity. This role as a protector was not limited to physical defense. It also symbolized the god's moral responsibility to maintain the balance between all realms. Fact 117: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was a symbol of not just his power, but his responsibility. The hammer's ability to both create and destroy represented Thor's role as a god who could shape the world. While Mjolnir could strike down giants and enemies of the gods, it also had the power to bless and purify, ensuring that the realms remained balanced and protected. This duality reflected Thor's role as a defender, where his strength could be used to maintain order, but also to restore peace and harmony to both the divine and mortal worlds. Fact 118: Thor's adventures were often filled with danger and conflict, but they were also deeply symbolic of the trials that the Norse people faced. Thor's journeys to distant lands, where he confronted giants and other foes, reflected the challenges of the human experience. His stories were not just tales of physical battles, but of the struggle to maintain order and stability in a world filled with uncertainty and chaos. Thor's resilience and determination in the face of adversity were qualities that the Norse people admired, as they too faced struggles in their own lives. Fact 119: Thor's chariot, drawn by the two magical goats, Tangrisnir and Tangjoster, was often described as a fiery vehicle that could race across the sky. The rumble of thunder was said to be the sound of Thor's chariot wheels, and the flash of lightning was the result of Mjolnir's strikes. Thor's chariot symbolized his constant movement through the realms, guarding the gods and humans from any threat that arose. The goats, as his loyal companions, represented his connection to both the earth and the heavens, as they carried him swiftly through the storms he summoned. Fact 120: Thor's wisdom, though often overshadowed by his physical strength, played an important role in his mythological character. While Thor was often seen as the god of war, his decisions were also shaped by a deeper understanding of the world around him. In several myths, Thor was forced to confront his limitations and think strategically to overcome challenges. These moments revealed that Thor's wisdom, combined with his strength, made him a complete and balanced figure in Norse mythology. His ability to adapt and learn from his experiences demonstrated that strength without wisdom would not suffice in the face of true adversity. Fact 121: Thor's connection to the Midgard serpent, Jörmungandr, was one of the most significant in his mythological journey. The serpent, said to encircle the entire world, was a constant threat to both gods and humans. It was prophesied that Thor and Jörmungandr would meet in a final battle at Ragnarok. This battle symbolized the end of an era where Thor's strength would clash with the serpent's chaos, marking the cosmic struggle between order and disorder. Thor's confrontation with Jörmungandr was not just physical, it was symbolic of his role as a defender against the forces of destruction. Fact 122: Thor's relationship with the dwarves was an important part of his mythology. The dwarves, master craftsmen, created many of the gods' most powerful weapons, including Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. The myth of how Mjolnir was forged reveals Thor's connection to these skilled artisans who imbued his weapon with great power. The dwarves, known for their skill in crafting magical items, were often the gods' allies. Thor's bond with the dwarves highlighted his reliance on craftsmanship and magical tools to carry out his duties, showing that divine power could also be shaped by the hands of mortals. Fact 123. Thor's legendary strength was not just in battle, it was also linked to his connection to the earth and its creatures. In one myth, Thor's strength was tested by lifting a massive kettle to brew a drink for the gods. The kettle was so heavy that it required Thor's incredible might to lift. This story emphasizes how Thor's strength was tied to the natural world. His ability to move mountains and face giant creatures reflected his dominance over the physical realm, where the forces of nature obeyed him as he ensured the balance between creation and destruction. Fact 124. In Norse mythology, Thor was often depicted as the god of thunder, but he was also seen as a god of storms. His ability to control lightning and bring rain was crucial for the survival of the earth. As a god of storms, Thor symbolized both the destructive and life giving aspects of nature. His storms could bring devastation, but they also nourished the land, allowing crops to grow. This duality in his character mirrored the natural cycles that were so important to the Vikings, where the forces of nature were both feared and revered for their ability to sustain life. Fact 125. Thor's travels to Jotunheim, the land of the giants, were filled with adventure and danger. These journeys were not just physical, but represented the struggle between order and chaos. Thor, embodying strength and stability, often clashed with the giants, who symbolized the forces of disruption. In many of these myths, Thor's battles with the giants were symbolic of the larger conflict in the world between the forces of order, embodied by the gods, and the destructive forces of chaos. Thor's role in these myths was to maintain balance, ensuring that the giants did not destroy the realms. Fact 126. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was not just a weapon of destruction, but also a powerful tool used for protection. The hammer was associated with divine justice, ensuring that only those who were worthy could wield its power. Mjolnir's ability to protect the gods and the world of men was one of the most significant aspects of Thor's mythology. Its ability to ward off giants, protect sacred spaces, and bless people and places made it a symbol of divine authority. Mjolnir's power also reflected Thor's role as a protector who could ensure peace and stability in the realms. Fact 127. Thor's adventures often involved him navigating the boundaries between realms, such as traveling from Asgard to Midgard or Jotunheim. These journeys highlighted his role as a mediator between the gods and humans, ensuring that the mortal realm was kept safe from the forces of chaos. Thor's ability to move between these realms demonstrated his importance in maintaining the balance of the cosmos. His travels were not only physical, but spiritual, representing the divine intervention needed to keep the worlds from falling into disorder. His constant vigilance ensured that the realms remained interconnected and stable. Fact 128. Thor's love for his family, particularly his wife Sif, was an essential part of his character. While Thor was often depicted as a fierce warrior, his relationships were filled with love and devotion. Sif, known for her golden hair, represented fertility and the earth's abundance. In one myth, Loki mischievously cut off Sif's hair, and Thor, in his anger, demanded that Loki replace it. This act of devotion demonstrated Thor's protective nature and his commitment to his family. It also revealed a lighter, more personal side to Thor, one that was deeply tied to the people he loved. Fact 129. Thor's role as a fertility god was an important aspect of his mythological character. While he was often seen as a warrior, he also embodied the forces of life and growth. Thor's storms brought much needed rain to the earth, ensuring that crops could grow and humanity could survive. This connection to fertility made him a god who was essential to the well being of both the gods and humans. His ability to create life giving storms and nourish the land reflected his divine responsibility to maintain the balance between destruction and creation in the natural world. Fact 130: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was one of the most important objects in Norse mythology, not just for its power but for its symbolism. It represented Thor's ability to defend the realms from chaos and destruction. The hammer's role was not only to strike down enemies, but to bless and protect, ensuring that the world remained balanced. Mjolnir was also associated with the ritual of marriage, where it was used to bless couples, symbolizing the strength and protection that Thor provided to those he cared for. The hammer's ability to create and protect made it a symbol of Thor's divine authority. Fact 131: Thor's final battle, known as the confrontation with Jormungandr at Ragnarok, was one of the most dramatic moments in Norse mythology. It was foretold that Thor would battle the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, in the great conflict that would end the world. Thor was destined to defeat the serpent, but in doing so, he would be fatally poisoned by its venom. This tragic end symbolizes the ultimate sacrifice, as Thor's victory over the serpent would ensure the survival of the worlds, even as his own life was claimed. His death reflects the cost of preserving order and balance. Fact 132: Thor's connection to the sky was more than just a physical phenomenon. As the god of thunder, he controlled the weather, but his storms also had deeper spiritual significance. The thunder Thor summoned was believed to be a divine voice, echoing across the sky and warning of cosmic upheavals. Thor's storms marked the presence of the divine in the mortal world, reminding humanity that the gods were always watching. Thunder became a symbol of the gods' power to shape the world, and Thor's storms represented their constant presence and vigilance over both the heavens and the earth. Fact 133: Thor's relationship with his goats, Tangrisnir and Tangjoster, was more than just a partnership for travel. These magical goats were central to many of Thor's adventures, acting as both his steeds and companions. They were symbolic of his connection to the earth, representing both nature's power and its fragility. In many myths, Thor would sacrifice and eat these goats after his journeys, only to have them regenerate the next day. This cycle of death and rebirth was a key theme in Thor's mythology, symbolizing the cycles of life and the constant renewal of the world. Fact 134: Thor's strength was not only physical, but also deeply symbolic of the Norse ideal of courage and resilience. In several myths, Thor was faced with overwhelming odds, yet his determination to protect the gods and humans never wavered. His unyielding resolve made him the epitome of the warrior spirit, representing the Viking values of bravery, loyalty, and the willingness to face adversity head on. Thor's strength was not only a reflection of his godly nature, but also a reminder of the inner strength that all individuals could summon in the face of life's challenges. Fact 135: The thunder that Thor controlled was not merely a destructive force. In Norse mythology, thunder was also linked to fertility and growth. The power of Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was used to bring rain to nourish the earth, ensuring that crops could grow and life could flourish. Thor's storms were therefore seen as both a sign of destruction and a necessary force for the rebirth of the earth. This duality in his power reflected the Norse understanding of nature, where destruction and creation were intertwined, both necessary to maintain balance and ensure the survival of all living things. Fact 136. Thor's connection to Midgard, the human realm, was one of protection. He was often seen as the defender of humanity, stepping in to prevent the giants from invading the mortal world. Thor's devotion to safeguarding the humans was one of his most important roles, as he believed in their value and saw them as an essential part of the cosmic order. His actions were often driven by the need to preserve balance between the realms, and his dedication to the protection of Midgard solidified his status as a beloved figure in both divine and mortal circles. Fact 137. Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was said to be so powerful that it could strike down any enemy. Its power was unparalleled, capable of breaking through mountains and splitting the heavens. In many myths, Mjolnir was used not only to fight giants, but also to bless sacred rituals and protect holy sites. Thor's hammer was a tool of both destruction and creation, representing the god's role in maintaining cosmic balance. The hammer's versatility made it one of the most revered objects in Norse mythology, with its power extending beyond battle to become a symbol of divine protection. Fact 138. Thor's deep sense of duty and responsibility was one of the defining traits of his character. He was never one to shy away from a challenge, particularly when the safety of the gods or humanity was at stake. In one myth, Thor journeys to Jotunheim, the land of the giants, to retrieve his stolen hammer. Throughout his quest, Thor faces many challenges, testing his strength, wit, and determination. His ability to persevere despite overwhelming odds made him a hero in the truest sense, willing to sacrifice and endure for the greater good of the realms. Fact 139. Thor's ability to navigate between the realms was a key part of his mythology. As the god of thunder, he had the power to move freely between the divine world of Asgard, the mortal world of Midgard, and the chaotic realm of Jotunheim. These journeys were not only physical, but symbolic, representing the connections between the gods, humans, and the forces of chaos. Thor's role as a mediator between these realms showed his importance in maintaining the balance of the cosmos, ensuring that the worlds remained separate and stable, with no one force overpowering the others. Fact 140. Thor's legacy in Norse mythology continues to resonate even in modern times. His character, a symbol of strength, courage, and protection, has influenced countless generations. From the ancient Viking warriors to modern-day depictions in popular culture, Thor remains a powerful figure. His hammer, Mjolnir, continues to be a symbol of divine strength and justice. Thor's enduring legacy reminds us of the values of bravery and resilience in the face of adversity. His stories, rich with themes of struggle and sacrifice, have inspired countless individuals to stand firm in the face of challenges, upholding the ideals of justice and protection. Fact 141. Thor's connection to the earth was not just spiritual, but also physical. His presence was said to be felt in the very storms that swept across the world, bringing thunder and lightning as signs of his mighty presence. In Norse cosmology, the earth was deeply intertwined with the gods, and Thor's role as the god of thunder reflected his dominion over both the heavens and the land. His storms represented not only his strength, but also the power of nature itself, reminding humanity of the divine forces that governed the world around them, shaping life and death. Fact 142: Thor's relationship with Loki, while often tumultuous, was one of the most important in his mythology. Loki's trickery and chaos were a constant source of trouble for Thor, yet they often worked together to overcome the challenges they faced. This dynamic between the two gods symbolized the balance between order and chaos, showing that even in times of great conflict, the gods were able to find solutions through their differences. Thor, the embodiment of strength and order, often found himself counterbalanced by Loki, the master of chaos and mischief, but together they maintained the cosmic equilibrium. Fact 143: Thor's role as the defender of the realms was not limited to his battles with giants. Many myths, he was called upon to protect not only the gods, but also the natural world from the forces of chaos. His storms were seen as divine acts of protection, warding off harmful forces that threatened both the earth and the heavens. Thor's unwavering commitment to maintaining the stability of the world was central to his identity, as he embodied the idea that the gods had a responsibility to preserve balance, no matter the challenges they faced. Fact 144: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was not just a symbol of strength, though, but also of divine responsibility. It was said that Mjolnir was capable of reshaping the world, striking down enemies and restoring balance when chaos threatened to disrupt the harmony of the realms. The hammer was not merely a weapon, it was a tool of divine justice, used to maintain the order established by the gods. Its ability to both destroy and create reflected Thor's role as a god who wielded power with purpose, ensuring that the forces of disorder were kept in check to protect the cosmos. Fact 145: Thor's many adventures often revolved around his ability to overcome impossible odds. Whether facing giants, monsters, or trickster gods, Thor's unwavering courage and strength made him the ultimate hero. One of the most famous stories involves Thor's attempt to lift the giant's kettle to brew ale for the gods, which required all his strength and resolve. These feats of strength, though sometimes comical, symbolized Thor's dedication to maintaining the peace and order of the realms. His perseverance, even when faced with seemingly impossible tasks, reflected his determination to protect the world and its inhabitants. Fact 146: Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, was also symbolic of protection in the Norse community. It was used to bless people, places, and events, from marriages to the sanctification of holy sites. In many Viking communities, Mjolnir amulets were worn as symbols of divine protection, ensuring that Thor's strength would be with the wearer. These amulets became so widespread that they were considered a vital part of Norse spiritual life, with people turning to Thor for guidance, strength, and protection. The hammer's ability to bless, in addition to its power to destroy, made it a symbol of Thor's protective nature. Fact 147: Thor's physical strength was legendary, but his resilience and determination were what truly defined him. In one myth, Thor was forced to prove his strength against a series of increasingly difficult challenges, including lifting a massive iron kettle and competing against giants in a test of strength. Despite the challenges, Thor's persistence never faltered. These myths highlighted that true strength was not just about raw power, but also about the willingness to face adversity with courage. Thor's resilience, even in the face of defeat, made him a symbol of endurance, teaching that victory is often the result of persistence. Fact 148. Thor's connection to the forces of nature was profound, especially in his role as the god of thunder. His storms were said to have the power to shake the very foundations of the earth, but they also brought life giving rain. This duality in his storms, destructive and nurturing, symbolized the cyclical nature of life itself. Just as storms could tear down, they could also renew and refresh the earth, making Thor both a harbinger of chaos and a symbol of rebirth. His storms were reminders of the forces that govern nature, constantly shifting between destruction and creation. Fact 149. Thor's adventures were often intertwined with his struggles against giants, the embodiment of chaos in Norse mythology. These giants were constantly attempting to upset the balance of the worlds, and Thor's strength was always called upon to defend the realms. His battles with the giants were symbolic of the greater conflict between order and chaos, with Thor acting as the divine enforcer of cosmic balance. Each victory over the giants reinforced his role as the protector of both gods and humans, ensuring that the forces of disorder were kept at bay, preserving the harmony of the universe. Fact 150. Thor's legacy in Norse mythology continues to resonate with modern audiences. His character, defined by strength, loyalty, and courage, has influenced countless generations. From ancient Viking warriors to contemporary depictions in popular culture, Thor remains a symbol of power, resilience, and protection. His hammer, Mjolnir, is still a potent symbol of divine strength and justice, representing the eternal battle between order and chaos. Thor's stories remind us that even in the face of great challenges, the fight for balance and justice is worth pursuing, making him a timeless hero whose influence endures through the ages. Thank you for drifting with me through the stories of Thor, the mighty god of thunder, strength, and protection. May his courage and determination inspire you as you journey into your own dreams tonight. May your thoughts be as steady as his hammer strikes, and may you find the strength within yourself to face any challenge, just as Thor did. As you rest now, let the thunderous echoes of his adventures fade into a gentle calm, and may peace fill your mind. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with the power and light of the gods.